November BP meeting. I don't know what anyone wants to chat about. There's nothing on the agenda right now. So if anyone wants to take something away, go for it. Michael's not here yet, so you have your chance to talk.
We could start with a hearty congratulations to the whole team for the upgrade, the protocol upgrade to Leap 3.x. It's a pretty big thing in my mind. So, congrats everybody. No action item, but I think
you can applaud if you want.
I think we can take a second and feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who was a part of that. I guess, technically all of us, but it's good to, we did good. Yeah, I really, if no one has anything to chat about.
If it's possible, I would like to. Hey guys, I'm Jesus Sobredo and part of the Fortis BP, and the Fortis project is a DeFi project built on Telos, and we've recently started the whole BP journey, and there was two questions that me and Lorenzo, my partner for the BP, had in mind. If somebody could kind of help us out a little bit about it, and it's basically related to the votes decay. So far, we've seen that there's not any vote decay anymore, as in the votes don't get reduced over time.
That's correct. It's never been on Telos. It's not a part of the voting on Telos, so you don't need to worry about that.
So my question was, so it works in a way that the votes will constantly stay the same, right? Meaning that the people that already have been since day one and has had those votes, they'll continue to grow, and new BPs that come to the space, they're gonna have to find immense ways to grow in that chart, right?
Yes, although we have seen new block producers come in and rise through the rankings and get into the top 21. So just because some BPs have been here since the beginning doesn't necessarily mean that new BPs can't get into the pay zone.
Okay.
Because obviously, when people sell their tokens, that affects the voting, or when they unstake.
I'll say, as one of those BPs that wasn't the original launching, I always complained about that, and I do think that there's still 2018 votes for BPs that don't long since gone that nobody really cares, and they're still running rec rewards and everything off of it technically. So yeah, no vote decay is
so
a hard battle to overcome for new BPs. I will agree with that.
Can you clarify? So help me understand what that last part you said. They're still getting what off of it?
Oh, well, I mean, if you need to vote to participate and get rec rewards or whatever off of it, right? I mean, the whole point is that
no, voting's not a requirement and has not been a requirement to get rec rewards.
I thought it was because it broke something with the proxies and all of that, but for the sake of the argument, then no reason. There's huge voter apathy if there's no reason for anybody to ever engage in voting. But for the sake of the argument, what he's saying is, I believe, absolutely true, is that because the votes never change, and it's like this on other networks too that even do have vote decay, but there's no mechanism that causes those original votes to really shift around a lot. And therefore, the only ones that do shift around are, new votes or the few active people that may vote. But you can go and look at Telos Tracker and see that, the sheer number of accounts that vote for a lot of the original BPs versus even really a lot of the newer ones, it's a lot of that their tokens are just staked, voted, set it and forget it. They don't care that cubicles isn't a BP anymore.
So I was so first of all, we can, if there's enough interest, then we can always change that. There's no technical thing stopping us. We would simply have to, I think the best way to do it would be to go to the community. We could vote that just as BPs, or we could go to the community, either way. So that's certainly possible. I mean, you'd have to get some, there'd be people on, I would expect there would be people on either side of that. But the thing I was responding to, Michael, was that there is no technical requirement for any account to vote for a BP, or back when there were proxies, in order to be able to stake Rex. That's something on EOS. That's not something on Telos. So I don't think it ever
and they
was.
may all blur together.
But if it was, it was eliminated, 2 years ago, at least. So
I swear there was something about it, but yeah, I mean, the main point is I think what Jesus was saying was,
there was a
agree with
separate
him.
problem. There was a separate problem related to removing proxies, in that we couldn't go and we didn't have the authority to go and remove people's votes whose votes were on proxies, and so there's certain ones we couldn't remove, we couldn't unregister while others were voting for it. So that's
It may all be a blur.
remembering there, but I mean, it's a minor point. But I just,
Correct.
But
yeah, I mean, I think what he was saying was that, I mean, and I agree with him, and it has always been, even whenever in 2018, 19, when I started to try to come through the ranks, is that there's a lot of old weight that I think is still, because there's no reason for anybody to change it. And it doesn't even break if they're voting for BPs that don't even exist anymore, because they aren't having to click renew vote or whatever.
It does break. You
Given
can't, in point of fact, you cannot vote for a BP that's no longer registered.
But if you've already voted and you never revote, you is the point I'm making. That's
Sure.
the other side
That's
of it.
true.
That's the point I'm making. You're right. If they try to revote, but there's no reason for them to ever revote. There's no decay, and there's no incentive, apparently. And that has led voter apathy of 5 years. I think you could probably go back and see. Why would they ever change it unless you can thump them and be like, hey, will you please vote for me?
Sure, but people do vote. So I would say that every democratic or quasi-democratic system in existence has a problem with voter apathy, right?
Correct, but my vote from 2020 doesn't still apply in 2024. Guess what? The candidates aren't even the same, but in this scenario, they are. And there's no incentive to do it again. I think it's what he's saying. I'm not saying there aren't active voters. We've dropped in, we've dropped out. I mean, there's people that are moving things around. But I do always agree that with no vote decay, there's an inherent floor for a lot. The longer you've been here, the more chance you have to have picked up those votes. And you'll have no reason really to lose them unless you make somebody really mad. Like nations. I'm just kidding.
I'm not, by the way, I'm not against changing that if that's what the community or the community of BPs think is the right thing to do. I
agree with you saying it's a community,
factual
it's a BP thing. Yeah.
Thing. Vote decay. So one of the reasons we didn't initially do vote decay is that we thought that bringing in inverse weighted voting was more effective than vote decay, and we could have done both, but we chose initially to do one. The other thing, at the time, I had a concern about vote decay, in that it's not really vote decay. What it is it's vote inflation. Each new vote counts for more. Your vote always counts for exactly as much as it ever counted for, but your existing vote. But new votes, as time passes, get greater have a greater weight. There's basically just a multiple that's related to time. So there's an inflation of future votes. Your votes are never worth less than they were the minute you cast your vote, right? It's just that new future votes are worth more. And I found that approach somewhat misleading and didn't get down on it. But there's, and I don't know that it's proven that it's effective, but I'm totally open to the discussion about, I could totally be swayed that that's the right thing to do, and I would vote and support it. I just haven't yet.
My question here is, what is the other opinion of the other block producers? What do you guys think about this possibility of changing, knowing that the chain is going to continue growing? We're going to attract a new series of users that could potentially be interested in building more BPs. How are we going to kind of figure this out?
Yeah, sorry if I may interject here. This is Mohammed from ActiveIt Telos. We joined as a block producer around 10 months ago, and we've been an unpaid block producer. And I mean, I kind of tend to see the perspective that Jesus is providing. We run on other chains like Hive, Blurt, Hive Engine, and several of those have actually recently implemented some sort of vote decay. More so a vote expiration. Like if you're not active really, your vote gets canceled out after a set period of time, like let's say 1 year, because this takes into consideration you're not active on the chain, so your vote doesn't necessarily apply anymore. Like Michael mentioned, I mean, if I voted in 2020, I probably in 2024 I might not have the same opinion, or I'm no longer interested in supporting these people. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult a bit to say. I mean, you're running a block producer for a very long time without any potentially hopes of climbing the ladder, with just paying for the servers, and you're just keeping everything running, and on the hopes. I mean, on the long term, things change. But yeah, I mean, I think there is some perspective into that. Considering some sort of an approach to maybe adjust things so that votes really matter, and people who are mostly engaged in the chain are actually having the say in who is the top block producers or not.
I can add to this, Eugene, EOS Tribe. We're kind of one of the early block producers who migrated from EOS to Telos. Yes, there is some, kind of steep curve for new producers to accumulate enough votes, but then we also have a mechanism of proxy, right? Which I find very useful, because the proxy, it's hard to have users actively engaged and research every block producer out of how many, 50, right? And pick one based on some criteria, which is the best, which contributes the most, right? And then make decision on voting. So some users just elect to, proxy their vote to a proxy. And then the proxy job is to pick the best producers to cast their vote, right? And they kind of like an aggregate, so to speak.
But we killed that over here. We don't have proxies on Telos anymore.
No proxies? My gosh.
No, we killed that about a year ago. We deprecated it, and like we were talking about earlier. Which, in my opinion, this is what I brought up, was I like proxies,
it was a very
I don't like decay.
Well, that's good. I learned something new. Being a long time producer, I assume we still have proxies, but that's good to know.
The community voted to demolish those, and so we pushed through the MSIGs and disabled it and broke a few things.
If community have voted, I support community decision. We are a DAO, and we make decisions on how to evolve the system. Right? There is a balance. There's a balance. If you have votes shifting dramatically, and you have validators falling in and out, and maybe some new validators may not perform as well, or just because they didn't have experience yet, it may create some instabilities in the system. So we need to find a balance where we can lower threshold for new validators to come in, right? But there still has to be a gradual, balanced approach. And I mean, we as a community must decide if maybe vote decay is a good idea, right? And then we need to just make it happen. So I leave it up to a community. Everybody has. I have my own opinion. Michael has his own opinion, but we as a community need to make some decision collectively.
A little bit of historical context on why we did that. It was well over a year ago. It was close. Like Michael, I think you've got the thing I've got where I just don't count COVID years as actual years. Like COVID years or dog years. It was over 2 years ago, as I recall. It happened, and one of the big reasons why it happened was because blocks had blocks was the main way people voted, and they basically made it so that you proxy. They made it so that people proxy themselves to blocks, even though it wasn't necessary. They basically because it was a rule on EOS that you had to be proxy. They streamlined it, but they streamlined it very much in their own favor. They became the biggest proxy, and a lot of people felt that was unfair. That was the primary inciting incident, and there were some others, and that's why proxies were removed by vote. There was a lot of talk about it in the community. It was always intended as an experiment, and I think it totally makes sense if people, to have these conversations in the community. But that's where we kind of got to start, right? You go to the community and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about vote decay. Let's talk about the problem, which is it's very hard for new people to come in, even if they're doing, good stuff. And here's a possible solution. And then if you can build, support for that, we can do it. There's really no technical challenge in the way that's insurmountable, and we have the way to do it. So I'd encourage anybody who feels that's important to go and start that conversation. We can get people to vote on these things if they feel like it's the right future for Telos.
I can see why I can see now with your explanation, Douglas, why because blocks was really abusing a system which wasn't inherently bad. Its intentions weren't bad, right? But yeah, it would be good to see maybe a more distributed way for community to come together and maybe join in some polls, voting polls. That would be a more healthy way to solve this.
If we get people to agree that it's a problem and agree on a general way to solve it, then we can write up an amend proposal and we can vote on it in 11 and a half days. And we don't have to create any new software. We just have to, shift some stuff around. So it wouldn't take long to.
We know it works. That's how we got rid of proxies.
Yeah, we have nimble governance. We can do it. It's great to talk about it here, but I think it's great to, I think that's where we have to do it. And let's see, Lorenzo has his hand up very patiently.
Yeah. So I'm Lorenzo from Fortis VP, partner of Jesus. Just to something to add, and I see from my personal view that proxies are not there, as Douglas said, for a reason. And I think that the community, and we are new, we obviously when we came, that didn't exist anymore. And I think it's an easy thing to abuse. And like he said, what happened to blocks on EOS and all that, I think that proxies are not maybe that the way to go. But about the decay, and something just to add to what Michael said, just before that, it was like, if someone who voted in 2020, the vote counts the same for 2024. And this is more a question than an opinion right now, and maybe Douglas, you can tell us more about. But if you voted the 30 BPs to have like the full 100% votes, if you made that on 2020 to 30 BPs, and from those 30 BPs, 15 of them 2 years after that don't exist anymore, the vote is still counting 100%. It hasn't gone to 50%. So there, I think from my side that there is a huge imbalance there. Obviously, we are talking for this because we are a new BP, and we have seen that it's really difficult to climb up. We obviously don't want what Eugene said, that we are shifting block producers nearly every hour or every minute, and people going, BPs going out, in and out of the 21 BPs, and then that the chain can be, I don't know, maybe there are some problems with the I would say with the milliseconds and all that. Okay, but I think that it's not easy for any of the small BPs, or that the ones that have just arrived, to get to more votes if really people aren't encouraged to vote, because there isn't a decay, there isn't why you need to vote. The thing is, what you get from voting. If I can vote now, and my vote is going to count forever and ever the same, you know.
Lorenzo, I'm sorry, Lorenzo, remind me your BP name on
40s BP.
40s. Okay, yeah, I have seen you guys. No, yeah, I'm all for supporting, new BPs, and kind of maybe shifting weight of votes towards, to give a chance to new BPs to join as well. It's all about giving tools to the users to vote. We have supported Tribe mobile wallet, which supports Telos, and it was one of our early features to have voting in wallet. So you kind of give that ability, give it in hands of token holders to cast their vote. Because I believe lots of Telos still have not voted, which is owned by regular people, right? A lot of voting in community. Many of us, have significant Telos holdings, and we also making voting decisions. By the way, I'm gonna support you guys and vote, because I was planning to do my voting revoting decision today, so I'll support you as MVP.
Thank you.
And this is Nicholas Lopez from Condo Weather. To extend that a bit, yeah, I think if there's a lot of additional Telos that's floating out there, I think with the EVM coming into existence now, and the point that a BP's core function is to have servers that run effectively. I know a lot of BPs also run EVM RPC nodes, so Knos, Telos Korea, Arabia, Unlimited, and so maybe if there was a way to have stake Telos be able to vote through the EVM, I think that would be beneficial, because that would be part of those tokens that are already accumulated across the EVM. That's just one idea I think could maybe lead to more staggered BP fluctuations.
There's a technical challenge to that right now that's non-trivial development, but the hope, at least when I was still in the TCD, the plan was to be able to bring that voting across to the main, the Telos native. So it's very much my hope. I wouldn't hold. Nobody should hold their breath for it. When we first, as little context, when we first introduced Rex was not able to vote, and we had to do some development in order to get Telos staked to Rex to be able to vote. And we did, and I think we'll go through the same process, but it's not instant by any means.
Yeah, I know on the bridge side, each EVM account has an associated native account, but I also know that that doesn't necessarily mean that every EVM account is tied to a native account.
Yeah,
So
it's the opposite actually. So every native account has the capacity to create a linked EVM account that would be controlled by the anchor, the native signer. But there are hundreds and thousands of regular EVM accounts that are tied to nothing, right? Because they're tied to nothing native. They're original, because those are the keys that people have in their MetaMask or whatever their EVM signer. So there is one. It's not super useful in some ways. It's not needed. But the way I think that we will ultimately use, the way we will be able to vote for EVM is an EVM account can register a native account, would be able to register, like, link to a native account and say, this is where I want my votes to count, and then vote on the native account. That's the first way that comes to mind. There's other ways, and the Antelope IBC is going to have EVM capability. Already does, but it's not going to be one of the first things deployed, but in practice it does. And that'll work very well with our EVMs. So there's a couple different routes that we could do that by, and we will do it. It's just it's not super high on the TCD priority list when I last had those discussions. Now, if we think that it should be, then they work for us, right? So the TCD, the TF, everybody works for the chain, for the users. And so if we as users and block producers want to make that case that those should be prioritized, I think we have every right to do that. A lot of these things for me come down to, how do we talk to the community about them? How do we have a conversation? And then out of that conversation, we build rough consensus. Can we turn that into an amendment? And then that amendment can actually get final consensus. So it's very doable. This is a great place to start it, but that would be something we'd really want to kind of get out there in front of people, let them understand what the problems are, listen to their feedback, do some polls, do all kinds of things, do some town hall meetings, things like that, and just see if there's, if this is perceived as a problem that people want to fix. And if so, then let's fix it.
Yeah, so from Fortis, we can say that we are making a proposal for it to the community. So just to see what their opinion is, and to see what type of decay it's more useful, because I'm reading on the chat someone that said, for example, I think, who was it, is TLCC consultants, that said, like, for example, it doesn't need to be like I don't know if in EOS it's a week by week or day by day decay, but something like, for example, you can have that your vote is worth 1 for 12 months or 6 months or whatever, and then it just gets, for example, on half or whatever, just so people are more encouraged to vote and to see what's new on the block producers.
And I also
Sure.
think that at the same time that also involves the community more, because they're gonna become more active. They're gonna try to do more research about what BPs are doing, what they should vote at, and things like that.
Sure. I mean, that's one of
You're
the
muted,
reasons
Michael.
that we
In
wanted to.
theory, but I
Yeah.
can tell you on most other chains, I mean, it's the lack of tooling easily available for regular voters to truly get a bearing on what all the different BPs do, because we all do totally different things. I mean, you know, if you know Area X way more than you would know Telos Arabia is running one of the few EVM nodes out there in the world. You know, I mean, because you're just judged on a different playing field. So I mean, that in my opinion is by far, and it ain't a Telos problem, it's a DPOS problem, is expecting all of us to do the same thing and then be judged by normal token holders on a standard playing field. But like I say, I definitely, and I had not ever even thought about and it is true, you circumvent the inverse weighting if you're an old account that refuses to vote for new BPs, but you don't get penalized by not supporting 30 active BPs. The interesting, it does circumvent that.
There would be a technical lift in changing that. You know, because your vote weight gets cemented in when you make that vote. I think that's hard to intentionally exploit. I think that you see laziness, but you don't see people going, aha, here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to, count on these guys.
I'm doing it now just because I'm exploiting it. Is that okay? Fine. Because I have an old vote list that probably does have some dead BPs or whatever in it. So that's a good point. Obviously, it wasn't malicious, but you're right. I'm getting full weight for 20 some odd BPs or whatever because the other ones aren't there.
So this problem exists for other chains as well, right? And I have seen some other chains, like one example, Near, when you vote, your decision and rewards you get are proportionate and multiplied by performance of each validator you select, right? If, for example, if you casted all your votes for validator which been offline for 50% of the time, you're only gonna get 50%.
There are definitely some chains that do that. That's a hell of a technical uplift. I mean,
would be, a step in the right direction.
That would require some additional development to include that type of slashing for performance. It's technically possible, but I think it would be.
So, I think Wax had that. At least it was in the white paper. I'm not sure if it's fully built into the code and everything, but I agree with the sentiment is, that may be way too complex to at least be the first phase of it. I would much more.
They can do on Wax that we can't because of the way that things are selected. But let me address a question that the technical question I think Lorenzo had about how vote decay or vote inflation works, and that is, let's say it's just a multiplier over time. So every second, if I were to vote now, then my vote would have a certain weight. If I were to vote 10 minutes from now, it would have a greater weight, even changing nothing, just because time had passed. So what it does is if I voted and it was worth 10 whatever, then and I voted the next day and it'd be worth 10.1 with all other things being the same, my 10 would always be 10. It would never turn to 9 or 8 or anything like that. It would each new vote is inflated. It's a misleading name. That's not the end of the world, but I don't know that it's the end all be all, fix for things. There may be better ways to do it. I mean, I think it's well worth having this conversation with the community I think we should make sure that, you know, we ourselves understand how each of the pieces work. We should maybe try and look at which ones are helpful and not helpful on other, you know, similar chains, and we have the power to change it if we think it's important. Yeah. So,
Great.
but that's how that works.
Thanks, Douglas. I think that's more clear for us. And just to add about what Michael said before about the community knowing what the VPs do and what they things are, because obviously each VP has their different objectives. For example, us and Fortis are more focused on developing things for the community. Other VPs are just there for governance things, and each VP I know has their own objectives and their own things. So as an idea, and this was something that I discussed with Jesus as I joined Fortis and we started the Fortis VP. I think that we can do some kind of voting app on which there isn't only the name and location of the VP, but also a description of what they do, provided by the own VP, for example. So it's not just because I've seen at least all the ones, all both apps that I know, from the Telos Explorer to EOS Authority to even Blocks.io for other ones. There isn't a way to know what a VP does unless you just go to the VP and try to find their website. And not all websites are available.
The way
So
that was written was that's exactly the standard way, is that, you know, here's their information, go to their website, and they can tell you what they focus and work on. I've pitched on many different chains of having an on-chain contract and just the VPs being required to, or suggested to, provide a profile that allows you more detail than just a website. But in all fairness, really, they should just click the website, but you got to go BP by BP by BP. And when there's 50 of them, what you end up seeing is, nope, they're going to select the top 4 or 30 or whatever. And then you've got to rotate that auto selection for making sure the top 30 don't always get reselected. And then they're just randomly voting for whatever the top 30 are that show up on the list.
Yeah, but you know, it falls to the BP to promote themselves, right? And I don't know if that's the world's greatest system, but everyone could be doing things like doing their own podcasts. Some, you know, Telos Culture is doing that, right?
There's a lot of people that aren't good at self-promotion because that's not what they do. And that's what DPOS becomes a game of who's the best at marketing themselves. And again, not a Telos problem, that's a DPOS problem fundamentally, because you're trying to judge everybody. It's like trying to judge hockey and gymnastics in the same event.
I would love that, actually, but
interesting check.
But there are different things. There are different skill sets that DPs need to have, and some need to be developers. Some need I think everyone just has to accept the fact that if you want to get voted for, you have to have some kind of, you know, community engagement that works for you. That could be,
and it's really tough because you took away the proxies, and now you're shooting at 50,000 different fish instead of like 12 trusted individuals. Now, whether you trust those individuals obviously is a question, but yeah, axing the proxies now put an even more burden on each individual voter of having to make an educated decision about 50 different organizations that don't even speak their same language, that specialize in an wide array of critical services that are provided for the chain. That's a much bigger DPOS issue, but
Well, one of the things I've been working on for about 3 years to trying to get somebody to do, and I think I've finally gotten somebody to do it, is is an independent BP monitor. And by the way, I just taught him how to do it. He is completely independent. But I would like to see. I would like to see. I think that's a step in the right direction. With Daniel Marcelo from Venezuela, not Telos Venezuela. There's some people who who were
Have
concerned.
they updated the Reg pod yet? No. Okay.
No, and I don't think the Telos wallet, mobile wallet, is still out there, but I don't think it's been updated in a while. So anyway, he's trying. I think for all of us, we I I want that to get supported. I think that Telos Works is probably the most appropriate way to do it. Um, and we as VPs and people in the community could tell them what would be good to see. Between the stats that he's doing and which is mainly surfacing things that are like that are all available but people don't look at. I think there's lots that we could do, and he could, if it, like, he seems very open to doing more work as long as the income is commensurate with the work he does. So he could, I think, if people said, hey, what if instead of getting X, you got X and a half, and each, in pay each month, and if you could add some descriptions to the BPs who's doing what, who's doing technical stuff, who's doing marketing stuff, who's doing nothing, who's like, we're already now looking at he's already bringing in tech specs so into that discussion. So I mean, it can be like the chain is in our hands. We can do whatever we think is a good idea to propose to the users. So I think but you're right, it's never going to not be, you're never going to not have to go out and promote yourself, right? And actually go out and ask people for their vote, like.
Now it's going to be even more centralized. We got rid of proxies, and now the natural inherent view for any apathetic voter is going to be to go to the one source of opinion about the BPs. Now, in theory, that's what the proxies were supposed to be doing, and that's what the OIG does over on Wax, just much more enforcing. But I mean, and I love the idea. Again, I support. I support that role and love that idea. But it's just the irony sets in on me that we're expecting the voters to now have the information that we really want them to have about all the VPs, and it's going to be one spot, one person's interpretation of it. And yeah, the burden's on you to get your information out there. You go and chase down all the 50,000 voters. That makes sense. I mean,
Nobody says there can only be one. I mean, it's taken 3 years since I first posted the RFP.
Just ironic that we don't like the concept of proxies being a centralized source of information or voting influence, but yet this is going to probably be the only centralized distribution of information that 90% of your normal voters are going to see.
Well,
but I support it. I'll split the cost with you, to be honest with you.
You what?
I said I fully support it. I'd even split the cost with you, for the record. I'm just stating that's even further centralizing and apathizing the voters, is that nope, they're going to go look at this report because it's got to be inclusive and details about whatever. And that's what they're going to vote by, because there's no other centralized mechanism for even the BPs to promote themselves other than their website, which don't get clicked.
I disagree that it's centralized. for one thing, we could have any number of these people in this role. This is one of the reasons why I think
it's not
Telos Works is
exclusive,
the best place
but
to do it, because
we can't even get one person to do it. That everybody that can do it is already associated to a BP. So there's not going to be six of them.
It was hard to get somebody who wasn't. We have somebody who's not associated with a BP. He did some marketing for somebody, but that's not it's not like he's running a BP, and I believe he's going to stop doing that as well. But look, with Telos Works, they can the voters get to decide who to support, and whether maybe they need to support, maybe they need to support more than one. Once you see that somebody is doing this, once the community sees that someone is doing this and getting paid for it, other people are very likely to go, oh, okay, I get it. I could do essentially the same thing but better, and maybe I'd be the one who got paid, or maybe I'd also get paid through this Telos Works proposal system. So I don't think it's centralized. I think I think that there are many pros and cons to the proxy system, and it does not equal more. It does not all having or not having proxies does not all on its own equal more or less centralization. It's nuanced.
I think maybe some of my point was missed off of that, is that it's not going to address your voter apathy that you're trying to address in the first place. They're not making informed decisions. They're making influence decisions by one report.
Michael, we are not, reinventing the wheel here. We are trying to solve a millennia-old problem. It's the fact that we are doing on blockchain governance doesn't change the nature of the problem. It's a problem people have been trying to solve for as long as humanity exists, right? And we're not going to solve it here.
Correct. But and in my opinion, we took a step backwards. Those people you're talking about, those were supposed to be your proxies. But now you've decoupled the ability for people to trust that proxy. They have to go and read that proxy's information, not a proxy. It's now a reporter that's paid by Telos Works, and make their informed decision off of their opinion and their, non-biased opinion, whatever you want to call it. My point is that the irony of, you know what, if they were able to just register as proxies, and people were able to, okay, you did your research, and these are the ones you think are the good ones, and these are the ones that have a bad mark, vote for me. So I don't think that you're addressing the apathy. Is they're not going to intelligently make any decisions.
My advice to all new BPs, if you really want to get traction and votes with the users, the easiest way to do it is you build something attractive for users.
Correct. Market yourself. Don't run infrastructure. Don't participate in governance. Don't do any of that other shit that you need to do. Go build an app and not give two shits if your BP forks out on the protocol upgrade.
That's not what I meant, Michael.
That's exactly what I meant.
But it's coming down to a promotion. You need to do both. To be a good BP, okay, you need to run your nodes solid, do updates.
You're right. I'm a shitty BP because I don't have a flagship product that I develop.
Well, that's Michael being Michael.
It might be true. That might be true. I'll say that may be a valid point, but that's exactly the original point, is that no, we all do different things, and some of us are less visible, some of us are more visible. And you're absolutely right. You want to get votes? Either number one, create an app that people can see, or number two, spam the hell out of people, because that's the only choice you get.
All right. We're moving on.
There is no move.
Thanks
we'll
everyone for your opinions.
Adam's got a point about some broken links on some governance docs. Super fun.
Yeah, so I was taking a look at Decide Voter, and I can't get to any of the governance documents that are on IPFS. and we're going to be making some updates to the arbitration governance because we've been helping out Telos crew with rebuilding that platform. So that's actually almost complete. So I think he's hoping to give everybody a demo here shortly. We'll be able to run elections through that, and then also if anybody has any arbitration cases, we've built out the platform and the smart contract for that. But really the big change to the governance is getting rid of the fee schedule, and it's going to be more of like a bidding system. So the elected arbitrators will have like an hourly rate, and they'll try to estimate how long they think solving the case will take. So we're going to try doing it that way instead.
So you'll have a update. You'll propose a amendment to the Telos blockchain network arbitration rules and procedures.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So to the question, all of those clauses are on stored on DStore in the proper format and everything for all 7 documents. When we updated the amend or decide to decide, we hadn't yet put the those documents back on to the amend.decide contracts, but I have those all ready to go, and I will push those out this week so that as soon as the BPs put those on, as soon as the MSIG is passed. Sorry about the hiccups, guys. As soon as that is passed, we will be able to have that those online. And there was a wait that was needed because there was a technical problem with how something gets put with how the it's kind of technical. It's how the different sections are counted, and essentially they were counting from 1 instead of 0, and then if you add the first time you added a new section that didn't already exist, it would be counted as the 0, and so we had to fix that. That's now fixed, but then a lot of other things kind of came in wet. So I probably should have gotten that on loaded up sooner, but it's ready to go. So there will be like 6 MSIGs about that. And then GoodBlock has if you go to telos.decidevoter.app, you can see how the TBNOA is listed there, and we can add that for the other documents as well. We originally planned to deploy the tbnoa.org app, and Marlon had shared the code with CJ because that had kind of been CJ Anders or CJ Walter. So now that had been kind of her idea, and he built it, but the code was really not good, and so we just had to redo that. So we'll be adding those, but you will definitely be able to find those soon. So then once they're there, they'll also show up in Decide Voter app itself. So you'll be able to make proposals.
Cool. Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna just for now copy it into a Google Doc and then propose it, but I'm gonna drop the link to the Telegram channel here in the chat, or I guess the handle for it. So if you're interested in following along, you can drop that in Telegram and join us.
Great. And once I get the art I already have the proposals built. I just need to change the names of the VPs in them. So once you have that, you can also go and just pull, if you want, the the IPFS hashes and point that are already on DStore for all of those. The other system was on EOS Miami, and Marlin sort of just let that kind of die. So that's why you can't. That's why everyone gets broken links from that.
Sorry, guys, just not to dwell too much on the governance and the voting topic, but since we just got a quick note from Adam on the Decide Voter, and there was a discussion about how to launch the PR and get to the public. I think if Decide Voter really gets out to the public as the go-to app for people to actually reach the BPs and decide on BPs, one of the good features actually would be is to have for every BP like a link to a recent maybe Medium article or some blog post that they share, that they publish frequently, maybe once a month, and that highlights what they have been doing across the recent period. And let's say there's a star for BPs who have been recently active or publishing some updates, and the ones who don't, I mean, they're not highlighted regardless of their rank. So that's one idea. And I mean, of course, depending on who wants to implement it and if Adam is proceeding with this. And just to, I mean, about the recent appointed person, Marcelo, I mean, I think this is helpful on the perspective of the basic infrastructure layer, because, I mean, I believe most of you agree that if a BP is not running the core infrastructure, they're not taking care and keeping an eye on the blockchain. I mean, that's the basic thing for being a BP. So this should be, I mean, like a basic thing. And I mean, I really appreciate this last move, because for us, I mean, running our BP and having a testnet, a mainnet, and an API servers, and finding out that other BPs do not run on a testnet. I mean, we're paying for all these things, and you guys are getting paid, and you're not taking, you're not keeping an eye for the blockchain. That defies the purpose. So from a core infrastructure perspective, I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense for us. Not from a decision to differentiate when everything is equal on the infrastructure phase. Then, of course, anything else, an added value that the BP is bringing to the table, from a Telos perspective, then that's something that probably would be best for the BP to actually share on a weekly, monthly. I don't know how frequent that would be. You know, on for example, on the Hive blockchain that we run, Block Producers, because Hive has a built-in blogging platform on the chain itself, so we can publish there and people can actually see your posts. But for Telos, because it doesn't support that social aspect, you can either have like a Medium article or some other sort of mechanism to actually have updates from the block producers, or even on your own website. I mean, it depends. But having the link there and the updates there to the public to see, this could help out in making a more informed decision without being centralized in one person.
Are you familiar with the Profiles smart contract system on Telos?
No, I'm not.
It's a social system where you can put your picture and your name and your status, and including links, and other additional, and then dApps can put their own additional information, and this is easily applied to any account on Telos. All you have to do is put the links in that you want. It's already used by decidevoter.app. It's also used by the Telos version, or by the Telos version of of voting system, and by Telos Wallet. And so any BP could use this, and I've been actually pushing to integrate it more fully into Open Block Explorer, for example. So that's a tool that already exists. That's how, if you were to happen to use decidevoter.app and you see that, oh hey, some people have their picture, and if I click on them, I can go and read who they are and a short bit about them. then that's the way it's achieved, and that can be used across the Telos ecosystem.
Yeah, that's excellent, Douglas. But what I was referring to is that, like, you have a listing of all. I think I have downloaded Decide Voter a while ago, and like in the listing, you have like a highlight of who of those BPs have actually done some updates, who have shared something recent, and this kind of helps out seeing like this guy without actually going to the profile and visiting their profile, and just making it more visible to the user about who's been active, who's doing updates, who's doing what, things like that, just from a visibility perspective.
Yeah, totally. But again, anyone can toot their own horn on that, and I think they should, right? I think that the lowest hanging fruit for trying to get votes is just go out, do stuff, and then make sure you're telling people what you're doing.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
look, if you were trying to sell, suitcases, and you didn't tell people why your suitcases were great, you really couldn't get upset with anybody but yourself that you're not selling enough suitcases. It is the way of the world, in many things, and I think that we may be looking for better ways to do it, but some of these things are pretty baked into just human systems. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people who are concerned about these things, and I'm not trying to minimize their concerns. I think these seems entirely reasonable just to me, and I could be swayed very easily with great arguments on why we should have changes, especially if I see other people supporting that. But I think that compared to that, I think a lot of people might ultimately be disappointed when those changes come in, and then they fix less than you might expect. Whereas a concerted effort to being engaging and helping people solve problems and putting out some videos about how to do things and stuff like that is probably a way better use of anybody's individual time on moving up the ladder. It's doable. We know it's doable. Like when EOS USA or Telos USA first climbed that ladder, one of the things they were doing is they were putting out videos all the time. I know it's a pain in the ass. It's it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time, but it's one of those things we it's part of the system, and it's not part of the Telos system. It's just part of the system of engaging with people. So
I think that from my personal point of view, voting is something that can be considered as boring. If we can make voting fun to the point that maybe if users, they vote, they can get like a badge saying I voted or something like that, like it happens on political systems, then people might be more encouraged to vote.
I love it. I've been pushing for that as part of a social wallet for years. So just like gamification of voting. So I mean, you and I have talked a little bit about social wallet features, and I don't know if that one specifically came up, but that's like people can get like, I voted for this is how many things I voted, or this is how long I voted. Like there's that gamification can make it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna script the hell out of that. I'm gonna get all the NFTs.
Do it. No one can fault you for it. Like you joke like that's a bad thing, but that would probably, as a byproduct, create a lot of engagement around Telos.
People get mad at me anytime I do anything with their systems because I break stuff, but I get it.
I can't fix that. By the way, Nathaniel and I have to go because I have to go record a video, which we do every week.
Hey, yeah, let me know when I can come
I
back
don't
on
have
there.
to go. Douglas has to go.
Before everyone drops off, do we want to have a meeting at the end of December, or does everyone want to take the month off and spend it with family?
Skip it.
Will be pretty dead time anyway.
So
I say we have an ugly sweater party, but okay.
I was gonna say the same. We can all wear some Christmas hats.
and that is tempting.
Nobody has to show up. If they're, like no one's required.
I
be
have to
here.
show up, Douglas.
You do.
Maybe make
Touche.
it a couple of days
It's all about
later,
you, Jenna. It's all about you.
28th,
Nobody has to
29th
show up.
instead.
Yeah, they could be the 28th.
Marketing. Market the meeting. Make it fun
Right.
with our ugly
Well,
sweaters.
maybe we'll do
Distribute
a poll.
NFTs.
All right. Well, see everyone December 28th.
All
Everyone
right.
who wants to show up. Holiday BP meeting.
Somebody's excited.
I love Christmas. I mean, my tree's been up since October. So
Yeah.
I have a Christmas tattoo. Like I love it. So if you guys want a Christmas BP meeting, I will go all out and we will have a Christmas BP meeting.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
everyone in a
Right.
month.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye, guys.
See you guys. Bye.